You are 21 years old and you just won 2 gold medals for your country, so they pull you aside and tell you, never do that again. That's the strange part of this story. It doesn't start with a scandal. It starts with a lap of honor, a flag in each hand, and the sport's own officials deciding that was somehow the problem. This is the story of a woman who spent her whole career carrying something heavier than a baton, not just a nation's hopes, 2 identities that Australia itself hadn't figured out how to hold in the same hand. And it ends on a night in front of 112,000 people, with the entire country holding its breath for 49 seconds, watching her do the one thing everyone was afraid she couldn't. By the end of this, you'll understand how a 16-year-old girl became a national hero, how a victory lap nearly got her formally punished, and why the moment they finally trusted her enough to light the Olympic flame was so much bigger than sport. You are Cathy Freeman, and this is the loneliest race in Australian history, even though you never ran it alone.
You grow up in Mackay, Queensland, one of 5 kids, watching your mum work double shifts to keep the family moving. Running is the one thing that's always been effortless for you, even before you understand what it means to be good at something in front of other people. By your early teens, you're already the fastest junior in the country. In 1990, at just 16 years old, you make the Australian team for the Commonwealth Games in Auckland. You run the 3rd leg of the 4x100-meter relay, and your team wins gold. You're not just young, you're something else entirely. The first Aboriginal Australian to become a Commonwealth Games gold medalist. Nobody has prepared you for what that means yet. You're still a teenager, but the country has already started watching you differently than it watches everyone else. You go home from Auckland with a gold medal and a new label attached to your name that you never asked for. Not just sprinter, not just teenager with talent, something closer to symbol. And you're 16. You haven't finished school. You're still figuring out who you are as a person, and already a country is deciding who you're going to be as an idea. Over the next few years, you keep winning, and the label keeps growing heavier. Every race becomes less about the time on the clock and more about what your face on a podium means to people who've never met you. Some of them are cheering for a fellow Australian. Some of them are cheering for the first time in their lives for someone who looks like them, wearing green and gold, on the biggest stages in the world. You don't get to choose which of those crowds you're representing. You're representing both, whether either side is comfortable with that or not.
Fast forward to 1994, the Commonwealth Games in Victoria, Canada. You're 21 now, and you're not just competing, you're dominating. You win gold in the 200 meters. Then you win gold again in the 400. And after that second win, you do something nobody in Australian sport had done quite like this before. You take your victory lap carrying 2 flags at once, the Australian flag and the Aboriginal flag. To you, it's simple. You're proud to be Australian. You're proud to be Aboriginal. Why would you have to choose? To the head of the Australian Commonwealth Games team, it's a problem. He publicly criticizes you, calling it inappropriate, suggesting you should apologize. The Aboriginal flag wasn't even an officially recognized flag at those games. Suddenly, a 16-year-old turned national hero is at the center of a fight far bigger than athletics, about who gets to define what an Australian looks like and what an Australian is allowed to be proud of at the same time. You don't back down quietly. You do it again, carrying both flags after your relay win days later. And this time something shifts. The public conversation starts turning in your favor. The criticism doesn't disappear, but it stops being the only voice in the room. 1996, Atlanta, the Olympics. This is supposed to be the moment, and in some ways it is. You reach the 400-meter final as one of the favorites. You run one of the best races of your life. It's not enough. A French runner, Marie-Josée Pérec, gets to the line first. You take silver. It's a phenomenal result, an Olympic medal at 23 years old. But it doesn't feel like enough, and you know it, and the country watching you knows it too. Because somewhere in the last 2 years, without you fully choosing it, you'd stopped just being an athlete chasing a personal best. you'd become the person an entire nation was using to measure its own progress on something much bigger than a stopwatch. So you go back to work. 1997, you win the world championship in the 400 meters. 1999, you win it again. Every year, the target on your back gets a little bigger. Every year, one race gets a little closer. By now, you're not just one of the best 400-meter runners in the world. You're one of the most recognizable faces in Australian public life, full stop. Interviewers don't just ask you about your splits and your training blocks anymore. They ask you about identity, about race, about what it means to be Aboriginal and Australian in the same sentence, in a country that's still working out how to say both words without flinching. You never asked to be a spokesperson for a national conversation. You just wanted to run fast. But by 1999, those two things have become impossible to separate.
Then comes 2000, Sydney. The Olympics are coming home, and the opening ceremony organizers make a decision that says more than any press release could. They choose you, the same woman who was reprimanded for a victory lap 6 years earlier, to be the one who lights the Olympic cauldron in front of the entire world. Think about what that actually means. The same institutions that once treated your identity as something to be managed and apologized for are now handing you the single most symbolic torch in world sport, live in front of billions of people, with zero room for a second take. You do it, standing in a ring of fire, in a silver bodysuit, in front of a home crowd of over 100,000 people. It becomes one of the most replayed images in Australian television history. But lighting the flame isn't the finish line. It's the opening act, because now you actually have to go and win the race everyone just watched you promise in the most literal way possible that you would run.
September 25, 2000. Stadium, Australia. 112,000 people in the stands. Still, to this day, one of the largest crowds ever to watch a track and field event anywhere on Earth. You step onto the track for the 400-meter final, wearing a full-body green and gold racing suit, hood up, visor down. You don't look like an athlete walking to a start line. You look like you're walking into something you've been building toward your entire life. The gun goes, and for the better part of a minute, 112,000 people, and millions more at home, stop breathing at the exact same time. You come off the final bend in front, and you don't just hold the lead, you extend it, crossing the line in 49.11 seconds. The gold medal, in your home Olympics, in the race the whole country had quietly been dreading and hoping for, since the moment they handed you that torch. You pull the hood back, you sit down on the track, and for a moment, before the crowd noise even fully registers, you just breathe. Like someone finally allowed to put something down after carrying it for 6 years. September 25, 2000. Stadium, Australia. 112,000 people in the stands. Still, to this day, one of the largest crowds ever to watch a track and field event anywhere on Earth. You step onto the track for the 400-meter final, wearing a full-body green and gold racing suit, hood up, visor down. You don't look like an athlete walking to a start line. You look like you're walking into something you've been building toward your entire life. The gun goes, and for the better part of a minute, 112,000 people, and millions more at home, stop breathing at the exact same time. You come off the final bend in front, and you don't just hold the lead, you extend it, crossing the line in 49.11 seconds. The gold medal, in your home Olympics, in the race the whole country had quietly been dreading and hoping for, since the moment they handed you that torch. You pull the hood back, you sit down on the track, and for a moment, before the crowd noise even fully registers, you just breathe, like someone finally allowed to put something down after carrying it for 6 years.
Here's the detail most people miss in the replay of that night. Your own grandmother had been forcibly taken from her family as a child, one of what's now known as the stolen generations, An entire chapter of Australian history, the country was still, at that exact moment, publicly wrestling with how to acknowledge. So when you crossed that line and picked up both flags again, the same two flags that had once gotten you publicly reprimanded, and carried them together on a lap in front of the entire world, it wasn't a repeat of 1994. It was the same gesture, finally being celebrated instead of managed. You retired in 2003, still one of the most recognized athletes the country has ever produced. But the race that defines you was never really about a personal best. It was about being allowed, finally, in front of everyone, to be exactly who you already were.
In my opinion, as Aussienatic. So here's the real story underneath the gold medal. A 16-year-old girl becomes a hero. A 21-year-old woman gets punished for being proud of who she is. And a 27-year-old Olympic champion gets handed the flame because the country finally caught up to her. Some people will tell you 2000 was Australia's greatest sporting night. Others will tell you it mattered more as a moment of reconciliation than as a race. I think both of those things are true at the same time, and I don't think you have to pick one. So I'll leave it with you. Was that lap in 1994 the mistake everyone said it was? Or was it the whole country's first real lesson in what it was about to learn to celebrate? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe for more stories where the scoreboard is never the whole story, and I'll see you in the next one.